Greetings, my wonderful viewing audience. And I say wonderful because indeed you are. It is my delight to be back with you on this program, the Donna Gordon Family Show. Now, I should hasten to point out that I'm not Donna Gordon. We really do have some commonalities. But today I am hosting, deputizing for her because she's unable to be in studio. But this is the show, Donna Gordon Family Show. And I have a guest in studio, and we're going to be having a very interesting conversation. I'm sure you're going to find it exceptionally engaging, just sitting and watching. We do hope that sometime in the future, you'll be able to get on your telephone and call and talk to us and participate in our discussion. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy our conversation as we talk about the family. Now, saying that we're going to be talking about the families is like saying we're going to talk about fruits. And there are so many fruits. There are so many issues that relate to the family. And we are going to look at a few cardinal ones, the ones that relate especially to our Caribbean context, and in particular to what's happening in our beautiful trial state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martinique. So we'll be talking about like father absenteeism. We're going to be talking about sex and marriage and relationships, and we're going to be talking about how to make the marriage work and some practical things that you can do, some techniques, some strategies that you can employ that will enhance and beef up that relationship. It is said once by an African sage, a chief, a wise man, that the destruction of a nation often begins in the homes of its people. And from a Judeo-Christian worldview, I'd like to say the devil seeks to destroy families because he knows that the family is the most important social institution. When the family gets bad, when the family breaks down, when dysfunctionality is the cardinal attribute or experience in the family, then the entire nation suffers. Children from broken homes tend to give more trouble in school than children from homes where there is love and where there is acceptance and where there is affection. Bad neighborhoods are largely neighborhoods where there is a lot of family dysfunctionality and boys are on the streets and there is gangsterism and criminality. But it boils down to a large extent what goes on in the family. And that's why we seek on this program to raise the consciousness that we ought to be intentional about structuring our families for success. I am delighted to have in studio a gentleman who has flown across the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know if it was in Virgin Atlantic or British Airways, but he has come to our shores and he has joined me in studio this day for us to have a conversation about the topics that I just itemized. Welcome, Alan.
Thanks for having me. It's delightful to be here.
Yes, he's Alan Charles. And Alan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you currently live? Where did you go to school? What did you study?
Okay, I'm from the UK. I was born in England. But at the age of 3, my mother sent me to St. Vincent. So I had my primary years in St. Vincent. Then I returned back to the UK at age 12. And I've been there ever since. I studied at the University of North London, where I did my bachelor's in business and finance. But my real passion is writing, creative writing. And so I'm actually here on the island to pursue that via a play that we're doing. And so I'm married. 12 years of marriage, married to a Trini woman. So the Caribbean is instilled in me, you know what I mean, for growing up, through my wife and everything. And so I love the islands. I mean, I've been to most of the islands throughout the Caribbean via my work. So yes, I'm a member of the SDA Church, born and bred, you know, from childhood straight through. Obviously, I had my days in my youth where you rebelled and slipped away, but I mean, the Lord was gracious, you know, and He has kept me, and so I'm here fighting the good fight.
Oh, that's very nice, and I want you to know that we welcome you to our beautiful island state of Grenada, Carriacou, Piri Martinique. It's nice here. This is a little piece of paradise, and I really do hope that you will have some oil down before you,
I haven't yet, but yes, I must be before I leave.
You get back.
Before I leave, yes.
But you know, the family is under siege. In fact, the very word family is now being redefined.
Indeed, yes.
If you're traveling in some places and you see forms that you're to fill out, you know, data sheets, and you no longer see father and mother, you see parent one, parent two,
yes.
Which of course is showing that the traditional concept of family is being it's been unpacked, it's been adjusted, because in our post-modern generation, lots of things that we have taken for granted are now shifting.
Indeed.
And we are in a very precarious position, but we ought to identify the pillars and strengthen the pillars. So, what has sparked your interest in family life?
I think, as he says, there seems to be a spiritual warfare against the family, because the enemy knows that once you destroy the family, you destroy society. When society breaks down, there is carnage. You know, the Bible says that God created Adam and Eve in His image. So the male-female concept is part of God's image, and Satan is doing everything he can to discredit God's image. He doesn't want man to reflect God's image, so he does everything he can where the family is concerned and where love and marriage is concerned, because once you break that down, you're almost breaking down the image of God. So therefore we have, as he says, we no longer have male-female, we have all different equations. You know, we've got male and male, we've got female and female, we've got transgender, and everything is discrediting God's original creation and God's original plan for the family. God is a God of the family. The first thing He did was created the family. When He spoke to, when He wanted a family, when He wanted to bring Jesus through, He chose a family, the family of Abraham. And all through the Bible, we see the family has been an integral part of God's relationship to man. And so the devil is trying everything he can to wipe out the family, and more so the head of the family, the male. If we're being specific, the man, because once the male relinquishes his position, the family breaks down, and we're now in a imbalance situation, as we're seeing being shown in society even today.
I want us to talk a little bit more about the presence of the man, the husband, the father in the marriage. But before we do, I'd like to talk to us about the premarital stage. How important are the premarital dynamics to having a healthy family life?
I think that if you are thinking about getting married, you need to pray 10 times more than when you're single, you know. And I think marriage, getting married, is the easy bit. Maintaining the marriage is the hard bit, but it takes preparation before you get married. So before you get married, you ought to know yourself. And I think a lot of times we don't know ourselves before we get married. Now, when you're getting married, you're marrying somebody that you don't know, and you're trying to get to know that person. So if you don't know you, and you don't know the person, you're gonna put a lot of stress on the marriage, because you're finding out more. So I think sometimes we spend our single life fretting about getting married rather than preparing ourselves to get married, so that when that person comes along, we are ready. We are a full person. You know, sometimes people say, my better half or my other half. Well, there are no halves in marriage. It's 1 + 1 equals 1. you know. And so you need to take that time to prepare yourself, get to know yourself, get to love yourself as well. Because if you don't love yourself, it's hard for somebody else to truly love you. So you have to love yourself, have that connection with God, have that vertical relationship before you attempt the horizontal relationship. You know, so the premarital stage is a stage where you are forever developing yourself and getting yourself ready so that you can take the step of marriage.
You know, it's very interesting that you've mentioned that one needs to tap into oneself before one really gets ready for the big step of marriage. Because unless you understand, accept, and appreciate yourself, then you are not ready
No,
to love, accept, and appreciate somebody
no,
else.
you're not. And as well, once you become once you become married, sometimes you come across stuff about yourself that you didn't realize existed, because your spouse will pull every string, it would pull every element, every emotion in you, because this is the person that you've given your life to, your space to. So stuff that you didn't have to deal with before, now you're in this space. You know what I mean? Like, if when you are like dating or courting, you live in your house, she lives in her house. So if there's any kind of debate or any upsetness, you have time to cool down separately. But now we're living in one space. There's nowhere to run, you know. And so that you find that it's a more trying time of knowing how to manage your emotions, how to manage your personality, how to manage your temper. You know, because your spouse can rub you up the wrong way. But remember, you made that vow for better or for worse. And these are stuff that you have to overcome within the marriage. But if you're unprepared going into it, you're adding even more problems. Marriage itself is hard as already. I mean, being unprepared makes it 10 times worse.
I'm in so much agreement with you. Mrs. Gordon always says that people ought not to ask us about the couple and say, do you think that marriage will work? As, what we ought to ask the couple is that, are you prepared to work the marriage?
Right, yes.
And it's
yes,
hard
yes,
work.
Yeah.
But it is, you have to have that orientation, that mindset that you're going in to make it work, because it's hard work. And like going on the battlefield, like going to Afghanistan or Iraq, you need some training. And it is absolutely unfortunate when you see young people rushing unprepared into marriage. The glamour, the glitz, the bling, the champagne, the limousine, the white dress, the tuxedo.
So we love the idea of getting married. We love the idea of the event, the wedding. Yes. Yeah, we love that. I mean, the pretty suit, the nice dress, everything, the fancy cars. But when the marriage hit, that's now the reality. When the guests have gone home and the honeymoon is over, it's back to your place, and that's when true marriage begins.
Absolutely.
You know, and like it's true. I mean, you sign that says for better or for worse. But even sometimes, I don't think we fully understand or appreciate what we say when we say for better or for worse, because we never think the worst.
No.
You know, we always think no, everything is gonna be okay, and because we're in love. I mean, the romance, the excitement. We don't think about, okay, what happens when there's no money in the kitty. The kids are crying. I've lost my job. I can't make ends meet, and everybody that's around you, your friends and your family, everybody else seems to be striving, and you are struggling. Do you have the willpower to say, I mean, I made a commitment, and it's, you understand? So we really need to really take a step back and really find out, when you say for better or for worse, is it really for better or for worse? If I lost my leg, will you still love me? If I lost my beauty, will you still love me? If I fall into sexual sin, will you still love me?
or the one that the Caribbean men fear the most? If I lose my ability to perform in a certain department,
aye.
will you still stay with me?
But you see, these are stuff that sometimes we don't talk about beforehand.
And that's why the premarital counseling is critically important. One of the things I normally tell my couples is that when they come before me with their lofty expectations, their anticipatory delights, just waiting for me to say, "Come on, let's get over it." I normally tell them, "Listen, guys, when I look at you, I'm actually seeing 6 of you."
Oh wow!
It's not because my glasses my spectacles are bad. It's just that I know there are 6 of you. There is the man that you think that you are. There's the man that she thinks that you are, and there's the man that you really are. Yeah. There is the woman that you think that you are. There's the woman that he thinks that you are, and there's the woman that you really are. Now, in the premarital context, we have to strip away those angels, those nice, because normally the woman that he thinks that she is she's almost flawless, and the man that she thinks that he is so one that she will ride off in the sunset on a white horse to live together happily ever after. So you got to strip away those unreal beings and get to the core of the man that he really is and the woman that she really is, and now explore compatibility issues and try to get them to understand this, that they need certain skills in order to, they need conflict resolution strategies, they need financial discipline, they need a lot of stuff, they need to understand how is romance given, because there are lots of people who think that romance is synonymous with bedroom.
True.
But Mrs. Gordon, Donna Gordon, she always says that it is out of bedroom romance that makes
the bedroom romance beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So premarital counseling, delaying long enough to understand
essential.
What you get into is essential.
It's essential, indeed.
Absolutely. Now, so after the big day, and as I slide past the big day into our discussion of the marriage institution itself, let me just pause to say a word on the big day. These days, I have found that some young people are absolutely unrealistic and financially irresponsible.
Indeed.
There was one couple, when the event was over, the lady who baked the cake was looking for them, the tailor who made the suits was looking for them, the people who owned the facilities where the reception was held looking for them. Almost everybody looking for them.
Because they budget beyond what they could afford.
So the very day, I mean, it's just a one-day thing. You've got to be careful. If you're on your way to do it, if you're contemplating getting married, be realistic about how you plan your reception, how you plan the event. Remember, there is life after the event, and there'll be bills after the event.
But also, Pastor, I think also as well, there's also external pressures.
Yeah.
Because obviously,
absolutely,
depending on your family, your friends, right? Everybody wants to attend your wedding.
Yes.
Understand? And sometimes we have to, as friends and family, we have to realize, you know what? Maybe they can't afford to invite everyone. I mean, I know that in the UK, a lot of people would rather go away quietly and do the wedding now because it's so expensive as well. So I think that sometimes the pressure from family, because sometimes you have to invite husband, wife, children, neighbor, everybody, and sometimes that causes a pressure. And because you don't want to offend anybody or leave anybody out, sometimes you may go beyond your means. So yes, I agree that the couples themselves should be responsible, but even us as onlookers, as friends and family, should be able to say, no, if I don't get invited, that's cool, and you know what, I will sow into the marriage. Understand? But these days we don't really have that anymore. These days everything is done on the family. Back in the day, everybody would chip in, and and it became a family village burden to make this thing happen. But these days, it's every man for himself, and everybody still wants to eat the best food, go to the best venue, and have the best entertainment in the best venue. So yes, so pressure from within and without causes us to have, and also something we want to outdo our friend or outdo our sibling. So yeah, financial responsibility is very important.
Absolutely. Now, if you're just joining us, you are tuned to uh, GIS Television. The program is the Donna Gordon Family Show, and we've been talking with Mr. Alan Childs from the UK, but he also has Caribbean roots and is intimately connected to the Caribbean. But we're going to take a break. We will be right back. Please stay with us.
Hello, how can I help?
I don't have anyone I can talk to.
I don't know what to do. Don't worry, sir. This call is confidential. It's girls. Like, really young girls. I can't stop thinking about them. Don't worry, sir. We will get you the help that you need.
My mom would believe me, but when she's on night shifts, my uncle keeps visiting me. I can't stop him.
Don't worry, miss. We will make sure you never have to deal with this again.
Welcome back to the program, the Donna Gordon Family Show. And as I said at the outset, I am certainly not Donna Gordon. She is the better looking of the couple. And she's unable to be here today, so I am deputizing. We normally sit here and have our discussions on family life. And today we are grateful to have in studio with us Mr. Alan Childs from the UK, and we've been talking about this fundamentally important institution called the family. And we want you to pay attention, listen, and at some future time you can share with us. In fact, if you want to share with us, you can send us an email at pastgordon@gmail.com. pastgordon@gmail.com, and give us your comments. And in our subsequent show, we will talk about the things that you would have commented on. Now, before we took the break, we spoke about the institution itself, the family institution, and we looked also at premarital dynamics and how to get ready for the big day. And now we are going to transition into marriage itself and look at some of those strategies that one can employ to make one's marriage work, or to help you to work the marriage, because it's not happenstance. You know, happiness in marriage doesn't come like winning the lottery. You know, it's not when I was a boy, we used to have a cartoon named Shazam, where things would just zap down from space, you know, and there's this cartoon character. Happiness in marriage doesn't, quote unquote, Shazam down to us. We've got to create it through self-discipline and through our own personal commitment to make it work. One of the things that we noticed today, Alan, is that our men seem to be absent. After marriage, we wonder what happened to the fathers. We're seeing a mushrooming of single-parent households. In fact, Grenada has a whole lot of female-headed households. What's your take on this?
Like I said earlier, I think there is a strategic effort by the enemy to destroy the family, and he does that by removing the male from the family. There's a lot of pressure these days as well of the man's role in a marriage in 2018. You know, what is his role? Back in the day, it seemed like it was clearly defined. The man was the chief provider, the chief protector, and the priest. Yeah. These days, with equal rights and everything, women are sometimes more educated than men. They earn more than men, and sometimes they even act as a spiritual leader in the home. And all these things have contributed in sometimes making men feeling intimidated, less of a man, not knowing his role or not even knowing his place in the family, let alone in the marriage. So I think that it is a strategy of the devil to really strip the man of his position of priest of the home, because he knows that once he can get to the man, everything else falls down. So it's then for us as the church to really empower our men and encourage our men to step up to the mark and take hold of the mantle of being the priest and head of the home, as I mean the biblical mandate that we have.
You know, Alan, no society, speaking anthropologically, no society has ever survived the scourge of male absenteeism. Any society that appears on the scene, or any society that we observe where the men could not be found actively participating, doing stuff, being there, having leadership roles, the societies inexorably would go down.
Because again, if we go back to our original plan, the original plan of the family in Garden of Eden was, the Bible says that God created man in His image. God created woman. So if you mess with that equation, society will fail, because you're going directly against God's original plan, and you can't go against God and win. You may have success here and there, but ultimately
you're gonna lose.
You're gonna lose.
Absolutely. You go to the prison houses. Now, I don't know if you've been to prison to visit.
I've been to prison to the prison ministry.
I've done lots of prison ministry here and abroad. I tell when I used to lecture at a certain university, I used to tell them that I've been to prison, and I would let that soak in and they would perk up, And I said, to do missionary work, But as I go to these facilities here and overseas, it would normally dawn on me, you actually where the men are, the handsome, brilliant, strong men.
But again, Pastor,
whole lot of them.
I believe that whole phenomenon about men being in prison as well is a strategy.
Okay.
Is a strategy, because if the men are in prison, it means that they can't be in the home. If they're not in the home, then the family is going to break down. If the family breaks down, it's a strategy, because I mean in England it's the same. Wherever you go, you're going to find that a lot of men are in prison. Why is that? It is a strategy. I believe it's a spiritual strategy to break down the family, thus discrediting the image of God. Because if you haven't got men in society, and even more so in the church, let's bring it back to where we are. In the church, there are a lack of men as well. What does that mean? That means that the women are going to struggle to find husbands. If the women are struggling to find husbands in the church, they might want to do it. They might want to find husband outside of the church and try to convert them later. What does that mean for our young boys? There are no male persons in their life, so they might verge into a life of crime. In England, we have a thing where gun crime and gang is on the up and up. Because used to saying they haven't got any male role models in their life, so they form a gang where they can feel loved and they can feel a sense of family unit. So I believe, like I said before, it is a spiritual attack on the man. Take the man away, and he knows that society will fall.
Well, you've just described a situation in the UK, and I could actually, while you were talking, I was saying, but he's actually describing a Trinidadian situation. He's describing a Jamaican situation.
Right, yeah.
In St. Vincent, it's like, it's ubiquitous. It's all across
the board. Yeah.
The board right now, where our boys are trying to find a sense of identity, a sense of belonging in the wrong crowd, in the wrong context, and that is exacerbating the problem. You mentioned also that in the church, sometimes you have, or most of the times, there are more females than males. Now, well, I guess it's a whole complex problem, because the truth is that if a large percentage of the young men are behind bars, and I say a large percentage, in fact, in the United States, 95% of all black youths that drop out of high school spend some time behind bars. Right. It's like the whole system is structured, is designed to perpetuate a particular social condition. But if they are behind bars, and also we're seeing that more single men are involved in gangsterism. Right. More single men are killed in automobile accidents. Right. I mean, single not only by virtue of not being married, but single also by being absent from your marital context. You're single by virtue of abandonment of your matrimonial home. And we find that a lot of men end up in automobile accidents as drunkards, as junkies, in state penitentiaries. So when the men are out of the equation, God help our boys. What's left for them? I remember having a discussion with some officials, some female officials, in a certain government officials in a certain country. I'll not say which one. And they were talking about the beauty of motherhood.
Right.
And I made a point that irrespective of how diligent and creative and consistent and faithful a wife, a mother can be in the absence of her husband, there are just some things that a woman can't do for a boy. Right. And this particular lady, she took issues with me. She said to me, well, Pastor Gordon, like what? Like what? Tell me, what is it that we can't?
It's a fact. A woman cannot be a father to a boy.
Absolutely not.
It's just obvious. I was brought up by a single mother, and she did a fantastic job. But it's only maybe in the last 5 years I realized that there was something missing in my life.
Absolutely.
And that was the love and the protection of a man, a father in my life. And I even saw that, because I've got a son, and I even saw that, some of the mistakes that I've made is because I didn't have it. You can't teach, you can't give what you never had.
Absolutely.
And it's only like in my adult life I realized that, something is missing in my life. As I was growing up, I wouldn't say I really missed my father because he was never there, right? And I thought I had a well-rounded life. I've had a happy life, but I realized that there was something missing, and I could never put my finger. And I realized that it's the love of a father. It's just something that the family or children were created to be brought up by a mother and a father. Yes, we know that because of circumstances, things happen, but the ideal is for a father and a mother because you're both given something different to that child to make that child whole.
Absolutely.
One person can't do it, and two of the same cannot do it either.
No, because that's in a way kind of like a sophisticated version of one person trying to do it.
Right. Exactly. So I understand that these days that the young people are craving for that fatherly figure, and because we've never had it, sometimes it's hard to show it. And the boys have been brought up in a dominated society as well. That's going to have it play off in them in its own way, because like I said, you need balance in your life, and if you don't get that fatherly love that you need, you're going to try and find it elsewhere. And society and the media gives us a false impression of what manliness is. It's all about women and cars and money and fame, and you understand, and that's not what manliness is about. And so you find that the youth would gravitate along the wrong path, which is why I said again, it is strategic, getting the male off the right path, so that.
It's interesting that you keep emphasizing that this is spiritual in nature and that it's a strategic plan of the devil. Being exposed to academia, being a part of the faculty at university level, it dawned on me that in academia there is no place for what you're saying.
Right.
To say that the devil is really behind the scenes, it's like that particular concept coming out of a Judeo-Christian worldview is seen as something that is medieval. Right. It's pre-scientific, but yet it is true.
But not that, Pastor.
There's spiritual forces behind the scenes.
Pastor, the fact that it's not there in the university, that's also part of the strategy.
Absolutely.
Let us dismiss God's original plan as a bygone issue back in the medieval. We are enlightened now. You know what I mean? We don't need God. So to the young guys are in church, and then they go to university. And this is what they thought. They thought, I mean, come on, we have arrived. Come on, you can't be thinking about this old book. I mean, that's on that book. That's that off. You understand? It's all, to me, it's all, he knows what he's doing. It's all spiritual. Let us be our own God. Forget that God. That was the God of yesterday. He no longer exists. We have science and technology.
And so today, 70% of all Christian young people attending non-Christian universities give up their faith by their sophomore year.
Because they're now enlightened.
In quotes. and so the whole family structure, it is being torn down in a multidimensional way. The bullets are being fired from just about every direction, and so the men are absent. You mentioned earlier, Alan, that the father, the boy needs the father, but you know there is also an interesting dynamic between a daddy and a daughter.
Yes, indeed, because we focused on the boys. Yeah, because the father should be the first husband or lover for the daughter. I don't mean that in a. You know what I'm saying?
We don't mean it in the sense of pedophilia.
Right. So that she sees how a husband should treat a wife. So that when time comes for her to find a husband, she can say, "You're not depicting the qualities that my father."
Absolutely.
You understand? So that's how it's supposed to be. But if the father is not there, or if the father is absent, all she knows is father is absent. So she probably finds somebody who is also absent as well. You know, it's all...
It's cyclical.
Yeah, it's normal.
Also, a daughter needs to be hugged in a pure, non-romantic, non-sexual context. So she becomes aware of a hug, of the benefits and beauty of a hug that is absolutely non-romantic. So in the future, as she's been socialized, as she goes through her teenage years, and somebody hugs her, she doesn't think bedroom because she's accustomed to her daddy. Tell me.
Pastor, listen. Oh my gosh, you just, oh my word. We have so messed up sex and love, right? That now our minds only see stuff in a sexual way. So like you said, a father hugging her
daughter,
or even sorry to go back to this here, a father hugging his son, right? Because that's a no in today's society.
Oh yeah.
If a man hugs another man, you know what I mean? You're looked upon as weird, right? So sometimes boys grow up not even knowing what it feels like to be hugged by your father. That's boy on boy, right? And then obviously again the father-daughter thing is where she doesn't know what it feels like to be hugged non-sexual, as you said, you know, and so that everything now becomes sexualized. So in innocent stuff, I mean, like a father and a daughter, or a father and his son, or a mother and a daughter, people look at you strangely because of how we have distorted love, affection, and so the whole thing is messed up, and we have not got a full understanding of how to relate to each other in a pure godly love. You know, I always think of like this. In the Bible, it says that there was a time when the disciples met together, and John leaned upon the breast of Jesus. And I always say this, like during my plays, I always say this. Could you imagine if your wife came in and saw the elder leaning on your bosom in your house, and she comes in?
In today's context, it would imply something absolutely different. Yes.
Right? But yet, in the biblical setting, that male bonding, that male affection was not sexual, and it was normal. But in today's society, every act of affection is sexualized
and tabooed.
You know, so yes, so that affection with the father, the daughter, the father, the son, is very important as a model of how your husband should treat you. But if the father is not there, she hasn't got a model, and so then she might use other models, that's not correct, and hence a lot of marriages as well fail.
Absolutely. And so we're saying that husbands ought to stay home. Stay home. Be there for your families. Sometimes I see husbands disappearing, going to North America, the UK, or Canada. Well, Canada is North America. But they go in search of economic opportunities in order to make the family better. And I've also seen both husband and wife go away in search of economic betterment and leave the children with one cousin here, one uncle there. And later on, when they come back and they now have a palatial house, the kids are on the streets, they have become drug addicts or prostitutes, or they're just rebellious because you gave up the essential for something else.
Pastor, I know I might sound like a stuck record, but I go back to strategy. It's a strategy of the devil. Remember, like the Russians went to England for 2 or 3 years, make a quick riches, and then come back to the Caribbean and live happily ever after. But when they went across the seas, life was hard, so they couldn't leave after 2 and 3 and 4 years. So they end up spending 10 and 15 and 20 years, and by that time, as you said, the kids down here have grown up. They would have had children over there, and there's an imbalance now of my children born in foreign as opposed to my children born back in the Caribbean, and all those dynamics as well have caused us as people of the diaspora to suffer as families. But to me, it's still strategic that we were asked to leave to come and get a better life, make quick riches so you can come back home, and it didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen because the allurements, the attractions, the ease of the new society would provide hardly an incentive for you to want to go back. So this whole idea of male absenteeism and the need for husbands to stay home and to mentor their boys and to treat their daughters like little ladies and to show them what the world of men is like and how to prepare for life. All these things have been adversely impacted because of the whole phenomenon, the whole scourge of father absenteeism. So the husband is needed to make the family work. Because somebody said, Alan, that the husband is the house band.
Yep, you keep a band around the home.
Yes.
You are the protector.
Yes.
You are the provider. You are the priest. And I think out of all the 3 P's, that's the most important. The priest.
The protector, the provider, the
priest. The priest, the spiritual leader, the one that calls the family to worship, the one that reminds the family that, God is our creator. We ought to give honor to him. When a man takes up that role, life is much more easier.
Those are the words coming from my guest, Mr. Alan Charles, who has flown over from the UK, and he's in our beautiful island state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique for just a couple of days. And we have been talking here about the family, and especially those components of family life that are germane to our Grenadian society. Stay with us. We go on a short break. We'll be right back.
Home is supposed to be my comfort zone, yet I'm in fear and feel so alone.
My mother receives money. Yes, money from men who sexually abuse me.
I tried to tell my mom, but she won't listen to me. She said, he's my big brother, my uncle, your father, my man. Don't call anyone's name.
I never wanted this. I need to tell someone.
Please, help me.
A message from the Ministry of Social Development and its social partners.
Welcome back to the Donna Gordon Family Show, coming to you on GIS TV, the TV station that offers you the best in news, reviews, previews, and interviews. GIS is a premier television station in our country, and we thank God for it. On this program, we have been talking about family life, and my guest in studio today is Mr. Alan Charles from the UK. Mrs. Donna Gordon is unavoidably off today, but I will try my best to fit in her shoes. Now, it's not a nice thing for me to do, but I'm deputizing until she returns. And we've been talking about the family. Like I said, we looked at premarital issues, and we looked at the absolute indispensability of men in the home. And now we're going to talk in the final segment about the marriage institution itself. So, Alan, earlier when we were talking off camera, you mentioned a kind of alphabetical acronym. An acrostic is probably a better word, about how to make the marriage work. Can you take us to the first five? A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah, right. So this is just like some tips of how you can make your marriage, keep your marriage, keep the romance, keep the love, keep everything. It's called the A to Z of a successful marriage. I'll just give you a few pieces of it. So it says A is for affection. You can't stop now just because you is married. B, beware, it takes enough prayer to make this thing solid. C, communication. It's good to talk. D, don't let the sun go down on your wrath, solve it before dark. E, every day love each other better than the day before. F, find new ways to fulfill each other a little bit more. G, that is for God, make him the center of your marital life. H is for hugging, but it's better if the person you're hugging is your husband or your wife.
I didn't realize that there is such a poetic ring to it. It's absolutely beautiful. But I want you to tell us, though, you have all these family values that you advocate, that you teach. And I have always felt that drama is a very powerful means of communicating values. In fact, that's why the movie industry has had such a powerful, deleterious impact on the society, because Hollywood has sold its values to the world, and we see how that has torn families apart and incite violence and stuff like that. So the whole modality of theatrical presentation of values is absolutely powerful. Tell us about your use of drama in the communication of values and what you're here to do.
Okay, so as you know, I am a Caribbean by heart. And as you know, Caribbean are great storytellers.
Absolutely.
And Nancy's story.
Tell me about it.
Sitting around the fire, eating breadfruit late at night on the beach. You know, we're good at telling stories. And if you look at the Bible, Jesus was a great storyteller. I mean, the whole narrative of the Bible, great stories. I mean, in fact, the way in which Hollywood make their film is based upon how the stories are told in the Bible, if you understand how stories are told in film. And so I use spoken word poetry and drama to give out essential truths about issues, social issues, stuff that we struggle with in the church. Give it an opportunity to share with the audience stuff, real life issues. You know, and so we have a play called Love, Sax and All That Jazz, which we're doing here in Grenada, which deals with stuff like singleness. I mean, we spoke about not enough men being in the church, but not only that, because there are lack of men, a lot of women are faced with a life of being single. And how do we as a church manage that when the Bible says it's not good for a man to be alone? Yet you've got women who want to get married, wants to have children, but they can't because there isn't enough men. And then we say, don't be unequally yoked. But then, so there's a pressure now to seek outside of the house of Israel to find a husband and try to convert them. You know, then we deal with stuff like premarital sex. I mean, obviously we promote abstinence in singleness, but when society and the media bombard us with image of sex and sexuality, I mean, how do we as a church, how do we as a body keep ourselves pure whilst we are single, whilst we are waiting for our husband or wife? Even more stress for the single woman who may not get married. So they've got a lifetime of having to keep it all together. We also address stuff like abuse in marriage. In our churches, there are abuse, physical, and mental abuse in our church, and how do we manage that? These are just some of the issues that we deal with. We also deal with the good girl, bad boy factor. Why do good girls sometimes fall for the bad boy in the pack? You know, remember we talked about absent father, not having a role model, so therefore you may gravitate to the wrong thing. So the play basically is about some of the issues that we face as a community that sometimes we're not comfortable talking about. So we give it a stage where you can see some of the examples, see some of the stories, and relate, and we're offering solutions and ideas. We're not saying that we have all the answers, but we are giving an informed answer so that you too can make your own decision and be encouraged to make better decisions, better choices about your relationships.
Absolutely wonderful stuff, and this will be happening at the Spice Basket.
Spice Basket.
Spice Basket is a very famous basket. You know?
Indeed, yes. Spice
Everybody
Basket.
knows the Spice Basket. We've had lots of significant events there. And how long is the play?
It's just one show on the 1st of July, one night. We start at 6, finish about 8:30. And the tickets are 45 EC. You can get those from Gittins Pharmacy, from Grenadian Optical, and from the Spice Basket Safe, and from IDPA bookstore.
Oh, interesting. I really like the idea, and I certainly endorse the concept of teaching values using theatrical performances. And I wish you success, man. And it was indeed a pleasure talking with you. Have you got a parting word for my viewing audience?
I would just like to say that through it all, you have to make God the center of your life. In terms of your family, He is the center. He is the top, the bottom, the underneath. Once He is in your life, everything else will fall into place. Put Him first in your life, and everything will be okay.
Well, those are good words. For a moment, I thought that we would switch roles. I would make him the pastor, and and I do what he's doing, because he's so articulate, speaking biblical values and encouraging us. It's been our joy being with you, keeping your company for the last couple of minutes, and we look forward to seeing you again on the Donna Gordon Family Show. But until then, God bless you. So long. Thank you.